fight fans? Welcome to Mr. Mustache MMA News. Today, I want to discuss an upcoming main card bout on this Saturday's UFC 304. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to continue getting more MMA content by yours truly and to help the channel grow. All right, guys, getting right into it. We got Bobby King Green taking on Paddy Pimblett this Saturday. And a great fight, man. I mean, you got Bobby Green, who always shows out. You got Paddy Pimblett, who's just a controversial figure in himself. Good and bad, right? But still, I mean, is riding like what? A 4 or 5 fight win streak within the UFC, like a 7 fight win streak overall. He hasn't looked pretty doing it. He's had, I mean, his fight with Jared Gordon, I personally thought Jared took that fight. I thought he won 2 rounds out of that fight. But nonetheless, Paddy, he had the victory over Tony Ferguson, but it sucks because it's against Tony Ferguson. That was a fight where it was a loss for him. Like, if you beat Tony, yeah, you beat an old, past his prime Tony. If you lose to Tony, then like you lost to an old, past his prime Tony. Beat Jared Gordon, but a fight that nobody thought that he won, and it sucked because kind of what I talked about earlier with Bilal Muhammad, he wasn't so classy in victory in a fight that a lot of people thought he lost. I mean, if you go back and just rewatch that fight, if you know MMA, if you know fighting, he lost that fight. So his chin is the only thing that I guess what kept him going. But the hard thing is too with Paddy, he has that Aljamain Sterling effect, kind of what I talked about with Bilal Muhammad, where like he's on this fight, he's on this win streak. He is not a bad fighter. He's a good caliber fighter. He's good everywhere. He doesn't always have these rock solid performances, but has looked good. He's had some stoppage victories. He looked crazy dominant over Jordan Leavitt. Took out Luigi Vanderimi in his fucking debut. The guy, he just hasn't looked great. But I mean, to sit there and say that he didn't dominate Jared Gordon doesn't mean he's not a world-class fighter. Jared Gordon's a world-class fighter. Tony Ferguson, a former interim champion. Just because he's not the same guy as who he used to be doesn't mean he's still not a dangerous world-class fighter. He's just not a top 5 guy anymore. And Paddy still went out there and got the victory. He looked good. He looked pretty dominant at points in that fight as well. It just, the timing, by Paddy taking that fight, he was in a loss-loss situation, right? Now going here against Bobby Green, great fight. This is a fight where you could really definitely sit here and see where Paddy Pimblett really stands. Because Bobby Green, fast, great boxing. Now his chin has been exposed a little bit as of recently. He's been KO'd a few times. Drew Dober, the Jalen Turner fight. But I mean, he's took the O away from Grant Dawson. He's coming off that victory over Jim Miller, UFC 300, where he just beat the brakes off Jim Miller. Great boxing, fast hands. I think the size advantage for Paddy Pimblett, Paddy's big. People don't realize how big Paddy Pimblett. Every time I watch that guy fight, I'm like, what the fuck? He's so wide, his back. It's crazy how good a shape he gets into, like how out of shape he gets out of camp, and how good a shape he gets right back into camp in 4-fight shape, right? It's pretty impressive. And I think that if Bobby's best chances is early. He's got to go out there and he's got to find the chin just like he did against Grant Dawson. And that's exactly what Bobby Green has to do. The more this fight goes on, halfway into the second round, into the third round, that's where Paddy Pimblett, I think, his game is going to work a little better. I think his size and his strength and his grappling, if he gets it on the ground, I'm pretty sure it's a wrap for Bobby Green. But on the feet, Bobby, I mean, he's fast, man. He's got those fucking hands. Keeps his hands down. That's his style. I'm not a big fan of it. Obviously, we saw that against Drew Dober. But that's just his style. That's just how he goes. You can't really expect anything different out of him. So, I mean, to say, but Paddy, he's been cracked so many times. Hasn't been put down yet. He says Scousers can't get knocked out. He says that shit. Maybe he does have a chin of steel, and whatever Bobby throws at him, he's just, then I think the size, strength of Paddy Pimblett and his grappling ability, I'm pretty sure if he can survive probably the first 5 minutes of this fight against Bobby Green, it's probably going to be the Paddy Pimblett show. And I just, like I said, he kind of has that Aljamain Sterling effect where, I mean, he has been his own worst enemy. World class, crazy successful, but every time he opens his mouth, it just doesn't go well for him. And, whatever. I think that Paddy, I just think that he has to go out there and just get a big victory. He just has to go out there and get a statement making victory. And no matter what he says, nobody can deny any of it. And then, it's kind of like the Conor McGregor effect. He has to make that shift somehow. And he has to do that by having just some sort of dominant performance. Because where Aljamain Sterling, nobody really kind of makes fun of him anymore. Rightfully so. But it was just, he was very easy to make fun of back in the day. But, since then, he's had some really good performances. And he's been able to just kind of take away some of the farce behind his name by being world class. And I think that that's where if Paddy Pimblett can go out there and have like a statement making performance, that is where we will see people making less jokes of him, I suppose, right? But nonetheless, I think Bobby, I think that he's got a chance the first like 3 to 5 minutes. After round 1, I think Paddy Pimblett is just gonna be able to change levels, utilize his grappling, size, strength, youth, and I think he'll be able to just wear on Bobby Green. All right, guys, let me know in the comment section what you guys think. UFC 304, Bobby Green, Paddy Pimblett. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.